Prosper is the second big piece of work out of peak prosperity. The first one was something called the crash course, and that's a lot of problem definition, things that people either are or should be aware of. Either they know it intellectually or they know it intuitively, that the world is really changing, not always in the best ways. Ecologically, there's a lot of warning signs out there. With energy, there's a huge story most people don't know about, but once they learn it, they start to go, uh-oh, and realize that there's a lot of predicaments we're facing. And by predicament, I mean things that really only have outcomes that you can manage now. For instance, once you lose a species, that's kind of where you're at. You have to manage the impact of that going forward. So that's all problem definition. That's great. I think we do a good job telling people what the issues are, but knowing that things are wonky or you're in a predicament without anything to do about it, well, that's actually worse than useless. That's just information that now makes you feel bad. So what we like to do is connect all of this information that says, hey, we really need to change, not want, need to change how humans are inhabiting this world. Here's some data. What do we do about it? This is where Prosper comes in. Prosper is the solution space that begins to address that question. Well, what can we do? And in there, we've got the book organized around 8 forms of capital. Most people are familiar with financial capital. That's great. You want to manage that, maybe grow that, make sure you're comfortable there. But there's 7 other forms that if you have abundance in those, you will be first enjoying today far more than you probably already are. And second, you will be prepared for whatever future might arise by becoming more resilient. So that's the general framing of the book. And we are increasingly at Peak Prosperity moving into that solution space as the problems and predicaments just are so evident that they don't really need to be pointed out anymore.
So let's dig a little bit deeper into those 8 forms of capital. Which is most important? What do you guys focus on? What should we be doing?
Maybe I'll kick that off, Chris, and then you can jump in. That's almost like asking somebody who their favorite child is. There really isn't a great answer to that. Really, they're all equally important. And it's interesting because when people watch the crash course and learn about a lot of the issues that Chris just talked about, for a lot of people, they initially just jump to financial capital. Most of us spend our whole lives, working hard to create a financial future for our families. And when people learn about the instabilities and the economy, understandable initial worry is, oh my gosh, am I going to lose all this money that I've worked so hard for? So I would say for a lot of people, that's where they generally start, and it's usually based on that initial anxiety. But very quickly, we try to get people to lean back and really redefine what their perception of wealth is. That wealth isn't just money. It's not just the number of zeros in your bank account. It actually spans across a lot of other elements of your life, and that's where we introduce the 8 forms of capital framework.
I get to choose how I experience the world. And so we're bombarded daily with media, images, thoughts. The United States is a very fear-based culture. We market fear to ourselves at a national level. It's astonishing. So the extent to which people can A, recognize that, and B, cut themselves off from that, as it were, and C, begin to choose where they want to exist in that experience set. Really, that's the first layer. So the first layer is kind of like what Eckhart Tolle would call witnessing. Get the witness. Have your inner self, watch your chattering monkey mind go at it. Number 2 would be start to shift your personal narratives and stories and just try them on. You can switch back and forth. And so that sort of facility just takes a little time. But here's the kicker. If you do that, you will find, probably like we did, that this is a useful set of skills anywhere in your life, in your relationships at home, in your business relationships, in your daily interactions. These are real skills that are very important to learn. And again, people have been learning these for a long time, but in many cases, it's kind of because they wanted to, or they'd hit some personal rock bottom that forced them to. And we're over here saying, wait a minute, but we also need to begin going this direction, because look at this data. It's almost 100% guarantee at this stage that the future is going to be incredibly different. So you got to start being less rigid today so that you can live into that new future, because there's going to be great opportunities out there. Also, a lot of things that go away. So in that area, again, this emotional capital is really important for people who want to flexibly, adaptively, creatively, and joyously move into whatever's next.
And there's a lot of new content we're working on, but sort of our core mission as well is tracking where we are in this story based upon the big themes that are discussed in both the crash course and in Prosper. And we're really seeing an increasing number of signs this year that the relative tranquility of the past 5-6 years is really coming to an end, both for the stock markets, for some of our natural systems, and certainly the political environment since last fall's election has made the world a lot less stable. And so a big focus of ours this year too is really helping interpret what some of the most recent developments are and being ready there at the ready for when the big breakages happen, to help people understand what's going on and what's most likely to happen next, and of course what steps they should be taking in response.